I'm Todd Bingham, President and CEO of the Utah Manufacturers Association. Welcome to this week's UMA on the Hill. We're in the second to last week of the legislative session. Tomorrow is Friday, and then we'll have 5 working days left of the legislature. This is when the sausage gets made, as you know, as you've heard, and quote the famous Hamilton play, "This is the room where it happens." So we'll be digging in and doing some things over the next couple of weeks. Wanted to talk just briefly about budget numbers. When the governor puts his budget together in the end of 2021, and then the legislature comes in and looks at that budget and determines what they'd like to do in terms of proposals, the numbers aren't exactly firm at that point. And so we've gotten new budget numbers over the last week or so. The governor put out a press release on February 18th talking about new and changing revenues for that. We've got an increase of $432 million in one-time revenue and another increase of $383 million for fiscal year 23. So they've got about $400 million they need to spend for this year, for 2022, and then they've got another almost $400 million in the budget to be of one-time funds to go into the 2023 budget. We talk about education as well, and annually the legislature and the governor kind of will argue back and forth over who is in charge of the budget. So the governor proposes a budget, generally speaking, and then the legislature will appropriate those funds. And so they work together really to come up with what the state's budget is. You're talking about a $20 billion budget. And so these numbers sound large, but in a lot of ways they're really not. They'll be focusing on what's called the weighted pupil unit, or the WPU, which is the amount of money that is allocated to each individual student across the state. And so when you hear people talk about the WPU, that's what that means. And each year they look at an increase in that percentage to account for inflation and to help better fund education. So this coming year, we've got about $1.68 billion one-time in funds that'll go to education, and then another 1.07 rather education funds one time. All of that being taken into effect, what we're hearing is it's probably going to be around a 5% increase on the weighted pupil unit, so a 5% increase per student across the board. It's critical that we fund education to the proper level as the economy continues to thrive and grow, and Utah is recognized as the best managed state, the most prolific state, the most diverse economy, and the most successful economy. One of our challenges continues to be workforce, and investing in education and investing in the future of our state is critical at this point. So we'll watch to see what happens with that over the next little bit. They're spending a lot of time right now on those budget bills, and we'll see an agreement between the House and the Senate on what those budget bills should be, and then they will propose those probably first part of next week to get those passed, to make sure that they're not running up against the clock. Again, when I say running up against the clock, the legislature ends on Friday night, March the 4th at midnight. Statutorily, constitutionally, the legislature cannot continue after that date. So when you're running against a time clock, a lot of times you see pieces of legislation that may just not make it because they run out of time, and some that might not get heard. That's not a bad thing. Generally speaking, we tend to pass too many bills in the state of Utah, and so taking an opportunity to really look at pieces of legislation, have public input, have the committees and public testimony present on what is critical and important and necessary that we pass is a good thing. Generally speaking, I think it would be good if we passed less bills and spent more time on bills that have a significant impact on the general citizens of the state. Again, the problem with that is that we are a 45-day session. So with the clock ticking, the more the time gets shorter, the more pressed legislators feel to try and run legislation, get something passed. And in sometimes a mistaken perception is to do something so their constituents feel like they're actually of value. Again, just from my opinion speaking, I think we ought to spend more time on pieces of legislation that have critical issues. Take the time, sometimes multiple years, to determine what's in the best interest of the state, businesses, individuals, taxpayers, social services, education, and all of those things. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but again, this is how the sausage is made up here. It's not pretty always, but legislative process is what it is. We as the association are here on a daily basis, all day, tracking legislation that has an impact on you and on your businesses. If you have questions about what's being done this session or what's already passed or what may not pass, please give me a holler and we'd be more than happy to talk with you about that. Two quick things on bills. There have been some bills on vaccine mandates this year. We continue to work on that issue in how to allow manufacturing companies to make decisions based on what's critical for you and your businesses, your employees, the nature of your business, which sub-industry you're in, and how that might affect you. Secondly, another bill on product liability that we believe we've got bottled up that won't be heard this session, but that could open the door for trial attorneys to bring suit against product manufacturers for a variety of different reasons. So we don't believe that will be heard. Again, committees end tomorrow, and next week, bills that haven't been heard in committee will most likely be dead and won't be moving forward. So we'll keep you abreast. We'll do one more piece next week as we wrap the legislative session and keep you abreast of what's happening. Again, thanks for what you do for manufacturing in the state. Remember, what Utah makes Utah.